My name is Liz. Most of you know me. I am now your chairperson. Jeez. Yeah. One of our members said, it'd be probably good to tell you who your steering committee is now and just what roles they're playing. So our leadership team has changed a little bit since our leadership team used to be a couple of people doing everything. So we have, as you know, last year we really tried to reorganize and do better and not fry people. So I am the chair. Henry McCurry, would you stand up, is co-chair. Treat him well. He has to move up and be chair next year. In addition to the leadership team, we now have what we call our Democracy 2020 team. Some of you have already come to a meeting for that. And Sherry Masson is heading that up. And there will be plenty of opportunities to be involved. We are right now developing an agenda and a calendar as to where we're going to put our efforts in this very busy, demanding year. So in addition to that, we have our amazing legislative action team, Connie Lippard, and Sarah, where's Sarah Moore, and Holly. And they are the people who are putting together these amazing framing workshops, one of which is tomorrow night, if you have time to join us at the Huron Valley Council for the Arts up in Highland. We would love to have you. Brian Watson is coming. They're also the ones who get those great actions out on our Facebook page and in our mailings, so we know what's happening where and who we have to call, and so we are so grateful to have them. We also then have our operations team, which is like our secretary and our treasurer and the people who found us this wonderful place to meet. So that's Pat Hinsey, and Janet Prang has joined her on that team. And we have our membership team who keeps track of all of our records and your information. So you get all this great information from us. So that's Lori Gardner, and joining her will be Missy Selfin. Did I get all of the teams? Am I missing any? Oh, wait, communications. What am I thinking? I would not be talking to you without communications. So we shifted things. Steve used to be part of operations, and what he was doing was mostly this stuff, communication, AV stuff, and sharing it with John, who is helping with our website, does the newsletters, all those mailings that you get. So the two of them are communications, and although she's adamant that she's no longer on the steering committee, we still have our wonderful Nancy Check, who is heading up our letters to the editor team, and I just shared all of their information that she developed with SWIM, and they thought we were amazing before. They think we are super amazing now, because they could not believe what she had put together for that team, and also helping run the website. So there you go. That's your people. Yes. And well, that's part of communication. So if we want to go that deep, Ellen does our Twitter. Jerry does our newspaper notices and all of that. So communications is quite broad. They fall under these couple of guys. So all that being said, we're going to let our speaker go first. And so Tiffany has been instrumental in starting our Huron Valley Environmental Council. Yep. Along with some of our very loved members, Jeff and Lori Gardner on that. Holly's been really involved with that. So she's going to share the amazing resource they've developed for us in our community.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for having us out today to talk about the Environmental Council of Huron Valley. It's all very exciting. Want to talk to you about a little bit about what we've done and see if that's something that speaks to you and maybe how you can get involved. So as mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about us and talk about areas of focus for us, our priorities, work that we have done to date, and then of course about taking action. So what you can do to take action if you're interested, and then we also have 5 steps to sustainable New Year. So something to get you started. So just a little bit of background. This is a really cool community story. So on the right side of the picture are myself and Deidre, and we have been friends for a few years. All 5 of us are residents of Milford. And we had talked, environment is always something we've been very passionate about. So we're like, how can we start something in Huron Valley? And we tried a couple routes, and got a little resistance, so kind of tabled it for a little while. And I've been very active in the Brighton Environmental Council, so focused efforts there. And then we had an event in September, a climate action event in Brighton, and that's where I met Jeff, Lori, and Holly. And they came up and said, we'd like to do something like you're doing here, but we're residents of Milford. We want to do it there. And I'm like, I'm a resident of Milford. I would love to do it. And then the next week, we had our first meeting. And here we are a few short months later, and we're very excited to share all of the momentum, the great things we've accomplished, and again, just the emphasis on the community piece of it. When you look at something like climate change, which is a big and daunting task, it can be overwhelming and very doom and gloom. So it's one thing, when you're one person, you can absolutely make a difference, but when you rally together as a community and you see all that can be done, it's very exciting. So, we are a non-political group that is dedicated to the greening of our community. We are all volunteers as well. So I'm going to talk through a lot of things today. This is, of course, stuff pie in the sky, what we would love to accomplish in the short term, but it's and we can only do as much as we have help to execute. So if there's something that's speaking to you or something that you don't see on the list, let us know, and we'll find a spot. So when we first came together in the beginning of October, we all sat down and just really kind of went around the table and talked about why we're here. So what is the really, kind of driving thing for the environmental within each of us, and what do we want to see happen within our community? So that makes it very simple, which actually was a lot of work, and thank you for Holly for your wordsmithing, but we came up with the following mission: to act as stewards of our planet, to protect, preserve, and mend our environment for the best quality of life for all people. So that really translates to a vision of a prosperous community in harmony with nature. And the Village of Milford earlier this year, we're in 2020, early last year, did a survey just to learn more when they're pulling together their Parks and Rec plan. And so they asked residents what were the main contributors to relocating to this area. And 61.4% had mentioned it was the green spaces and parks that were a major contributor in moving to this area. So that's something that I know that's why our family moved here, and we really want to make sure that we're keeping those trails and nature and green areas and protected and clean. So our strategy is really three-pronged. So it's to generate awareness of these environmental issues, help educate the community on them, and then third and most important is create a path for action. So a lot of times when we're in this space, it can be kind of doom and gloom, and you've got 12 years and then it's over and have a nice day. And we want to say, okay, well, if we keep on the course, it's not going to look good, but here are some things that you can do starting today to really help us not reverse, but prevent it from getting worse than they're predicting. So in terms of priorities, as I mentioned, we're a small group at this point, but these are the four key areas, and I'm going to walk into these in much more detail on the next few slides. But waste reduction, business sustainability, events, and community relationships. So with waste reduction, it's really about helping our community use less. So everyone knows the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle, and they're there in priority order. So it's really about using less, reusing to have less waste, and then what's left over, recycle from there. Right now, as you're all familiar with the issues we have with the recycling economy, it's about recycling education. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's one of our focuses. Also expanding recycling. So I'll go ahead and mention it now, but we had a meeting with the village manager for Milford, and we recently received the award, a bronze award from the Michigan Green Communities for the level of recycling. So we're about 40% in the village. Nationwide, it's about 35, and Michigan statewide is about 15. So a huge, great accomplishment. We're hoping that it's a good, clean 40%. But when we had talked with the Park and Rec plan, that was one of the things that we had said, well, this is a great rate and cooperation we see here. How about we try to expand recycling in some of the public areas and parks? So we're working with them on hopefully doing that soon. Encouraging green events in town. So we have third-party events that come in. We have our Thursday night concert and park series. So how can we introduce some recycling there to at least get some water bottles out, cans, things like that. And then compost education. I also wanted to mention on January 20th, we have our next community event, and we will be doing a styrofoam drive. So if you have any clean, dry styrofoam from any Christmas packaging, please bring it with you, and we will recycle it. Business sustainability. So we have a lot of cities around the state that are making commitments to clean energy, which is wonderful, but we also need to get into the private sector and really help kind of guide their sustainable practices. So we are working on creating, and this is again another area we'd be interested in support if this is interest of you, but looking to create a framework. So we're working with Brighton, who has created the Green Leaf Certification Program, kind of taking a little bit of that, but really trying to find a nice, simple model that would apply to all businesses, whether they're already very sustainably driven and installing rooftop solar, to those that are brand new to it. And we might need to talk to them a little bit more about money and savings by changing out items that energy savings, things like that. So if you're interested, let us know. And we'll work on that. So it's kind of a two-phase. One is completing the program, and then the second would be once it's ready, helping talk to businesses about becoming more sustainable. Events. So these are really great opportunities to bring people together to work on the awareness and education for different things, and then of course giving them some action items to walk away with. So I'll talk more in a few moments, but we have our Changing Climate Art Show, very exciting. A lot of people in the community coming together to make that happen. This is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So we used to have in Milford a great Earth Day celebration every year. That's gone away a couple years, so want to look at starting to introduce something again. At our community meetings, there's been a lot of talk about learning more about the recycling industry. So we're working to set up a field trip to go check out a MRF if you haven't been to one. It's a great experience. Definitely opens your eyes and makes you think twice about putting stuff in the bin and making sure it's the right stuff. Trail cleanup, again, we've talked about that. We've had a lot of great green areas and just want to make sure that we're keeping them nice and clean. And then the bottom line is activities to get people outside, in nature, enjoying nature. Generally speaking, if you're out in it and enjoying it, you're going to just be a little bit more passionate and connected and much more apt to protect it. Community relations. So this is kind of a big catch-all. Like I said, we were trying to keep it to 4, so we just kept dumping things in this one. But bottom line is it's building relationships with many different local groups. So organizations like tonight, cross-promoting, working together with like-minded organizations, parks, state parks, the metro parks, just trying to see how we can work together towards a common goal and have that much more of an impact. Government, we have village, we have township, we have city within the Huron Valley area. So really building relationships with your local governments, attending hearings, meetings, just to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on in your particular neighborhood. But most importantly, seeing again how we can help support them. So you're starting to hear as cities around the state and country are having a sustainable position and a sustainability manager that they can focus, but most are not. And so it kind of goes to the wayside if you don't have someone to help support it and drive it forward. And that's where, again, we want to be able to help with that. Schools, as you all know, Huron Valley, we have this new school bond and want to try to work with schools to figure out as they're doing renovation and extra building expansions that everything is done as sustainably as possible. So giving them some guidance there. Media, it's really about spreading the word. So if you are a journalist, we're a journalist, have always had dreams of writing, would love someone to help with press releases and really building that relationship with media to help get word out about our group, get people interested, but then most importantly, celebrating the success that we're seeing. And the newsletters, social media content creation, as I mentioned, awareness, education are our 2 big pieces. So just finding creative and fun, engaging ways to help communicate that. All right, a little bit about our work. So we have a website that we've built out, and the goal is really for it to be a hub for the community and a resource, a place where you can come learn about some of these issues, and then again, inspiring action in different ways. We have a green living section. So this is about providing guidance to people in the community about how to live a sustainable life. And for those of you that have tried eco-friendly products, you go to the aisle in the grocery store and it's getting bigger, which is great, but you try one dish soap once and it doesn't really work, you kind of start getting turned off a little bit. So this is a list of a few of our favorite things. There's no paid endorsement. These are just things that our group has used, really feel that they work well, have a good footprint, and have started that list. Similarly, the less stuff, so you'll see a kind of a consistent theme of getting people to help reduce what they're using. More memories, less stuff. So this was a big thing during Christmas time, is rather than buying more packaged goods for people, what are things that you can do and experiences you can have that, again, get people outside in nature, but really focus on creating memories rather than things. Sustainable holiday. So this was a dreaming of a green Christmas, and just kind of pointed out some of the big statistics. We know waste significantly increases between Thanksgiving and New Year's, so just some guides for how you can help kind of reduce and manage yours. And then recycling education. So we have information for the RASOC, which is where the manufacturer, or the MRF, where our recycled materials go for this region. They sent out, I think it was in the spring last year, about a 13-page document. It was great, talking through what you can and cannot recycle. We have links to that, as well as the app, which I would recommend if you don't have that. You just type in whatever you're questioning, and it shoots out plastic fork, and it'll say trash. Or it will, of course, give compost or recycling options as well. The other thing we have, that's a little screenshot of the map. So this is a different, that's the curbside side of things. This talks through more non-traditional items. So things like plastic bags, it can go to Kroger. If you have old sheets, towels, that sort of thing, it can go to the Huron Valley Pet Supplies Plus, which then donates to the Huron Valley Animal Shelter. Social media education. So this is, again, a way we're trying to help get word out. So we share a big stat to help get people's attention. And then the next part is, all right, so now what can you do, or what do you need to know or be aware of on these particular things? Events and community relations. So our first event was 24 Hours of Reality. And we had Steve Kolk, a facilitator from the Climate Reality Project. So he came in, spoke with the group. It was a great presentation that kind of kicked us off. And the one thing I did want to talk to you about tonight is our changing climate. So this is the art show that I had mentioned earlier. So we're working with Sierra Club, Huron Valley Council for the Arts, Cub, a church in Brighton that will serve as a gallery for that area. And it's really, as you know, art can be a very powerful medium. And that's what we're looking, is to really expand. We have a lot of people in our close environmental circles that care about the environment and climate change. And we really want to take art and have that be kind of the bridge to the broader community and mass people, to really show this is real, and show inspiring work to really help get them to jump to action. So it's a call for artists. We will have categories from kindergarten through adult. So if you are an artist or know an artist, let them know. If you have some inner creativity, please use this opportunity to let it out. The submissions are January 10th to February 10th. And then in terms of the showing, it will be April, I think it's the 3rd through the 22nd. And then the finalists from the 2 locations will go to Mount Brighton on April 25th, where we have the Earth Day challenge. And that's where the final artwork will be on exhibit. And then we will also do the awards. Just to talk quickly, I did touch on our meeting that we had with Christian, the village manager, and that went very well. He's very excited. He's a member of that Michigan Green Communities Board, so that's where we're looking at trying to, the sustainability certification that we were talking about, looking with the goal of making that a broader Michigan certification with a pilot in Huron Valley. I touched again briefly on the Parks and Rec master plan, which spinal column, if you guys saw it, was just finalized. Our group had attended that, and again, let them know we're here, and they had lots of capital talk in there in terms of expanding trash cans, and that's where we had talked about the two-part of recycling education, along with maybe extending some recycling bins in some of the park areas, and they, again, were very receptive and hopeful of our support with executing that. Indivisible Huron Valley framing workshops. So we've done a couple of those with you guys. I know I see many similar familiar faces. So talking about climate change can be a little scary at times, and how do you approach it? Who do you approach? So we've done some workshops to really talk through that have been great. And then the metro parks. Talked to them a little bit about our group, and again, looking for those partnerships and synergies and how we can help each other get word out. And they have a wonderful sustainability plan, so that's great to see. So, in terms of taking action, we would love for you to get involved, and I know it's easy to get pulled in a lot of directions, and people are like, oh, one more thing, but we promise we'll work with whatever you have. So if that's 1 hour a day, wonderful. If it's 1 hour a year, great. So whatever is your focus, whether you saw it in this list or not, let us know, and we'd be happy to work with you. You can either come see one of us after the meeting, or if you go to our website, ecohv.org, there's a black and white button, Connect with Us, that you can click on and leave your information, or it'll get your information to us, and then you can also there specify the areas of interest for you. We also have a couple ways for you to stay up to date with us. So Facebook and Instagram at ecohv is our handle, and then, as I mentioned, ecohv.org is the website. And this one is just a quick, I wanted you to see, this is a really kind of one-pager snapshot of what I've walked through, and this is on our website. So when you have a little more time, if you want to take a look, please check that out. As I mentioned, Monday, January 20th at Milford Library, 6:30 p.m. is our next community meeting. Please bring your tips for sustainable living and styrofoam for recycling, and we'll take care of that for you. And what we're going to talk about there is we'll have a brief speaker that will help talk about how you can reduce your food waste. We had in our December meeting, a great discussion about just people talking about different sustainability tips or places and things like that. So we're going to have a discussion about that with the goal of making, similar to the recycling map, a sustainable living map that might include farmers markets, if you have any stores that buy or sell certain things in bulk, just listing all of that out. Makes it a lot easier. I know there's a lot of people have a lot of great secrets, and we just really want to share that to make it easier for everyone. 50th anniversary of the Earth Day. We're going to talk a little bit there about what we want to try to do in Milford, and then again touch on the business sustainability piece and see how we can pull a team together to get that wrapped up. So very quickly, 5 tips for a sustainable new year. We talk a lot and hear a lot about ocean, plastic ocean, and the great garbage patch. We need to remind ourselves we've got our Great Lakes in our backyard, and 22 million pounds of plastic debris enter our Great Lakes every year. And that's the equivalent of 100 dump trucks of plastic in our Great Lakes every year. So what you can do, use less. When you start looking around your day-to-day in your life, you'll notice most of what you're using and throwing away is plastic. So bring your own reusable water bottle, shopping bags, silverware, straws, napkins. I know it's not plastic, but it's one people forget, but easy to take with you, and container for leftovers. And so not only will you have lessened your impact, but it's amazing how visible that is and how that starts to catch on when people see you doing that. 27,000 trees are wiped out each day to make toilet paper. 554,000 trees could be saved each year if each U.S. household used just one less roll of paper towels. So choose reusable and recycled products. If you go to our website, there's a TP pledge. If you haven't used recycled toilet paper, I promise it's a lot better than it sounds. Yeah, you can check out. We've got, we're all trying a bunch of different brands as well. So we'll check our website and we'll give you the full report on which one to give a try. In the U.S., food waste is estimated at between 30 to 40% of the food supply. There's no, none of us want or intend and go shopping with the hope of throwing stuff away. It just happens. But planning your meals, shopping from a grocery list is very helpful in reducing that. And then check out the last chance produce. So at Kroger, they have a baked goods and a produce section. I was very happy to see what happens after it gets the produce or the last chance section, and it looks like they're bringing stuff here. So wonderful and helpful in leaving that out of the landfill. If the entire U.S. did not eat meat or cheese for just one day a week, it would be the equivalent of taking 7.6 million cars off the road. Give Meatless Mondays a try. Don't need to jump into being a vegetarian or a vegan. Just take a look, and it can be any day of the week. Just is why we go with Meatless Mondays. But try one or the other. Maybe you're eliminating dairy to start. Maybe you try meat, and then see where it goes from there. Lastly, roughly 1 in 4 items placed in a recycling container is not actually recyclable through curbside programs. This creates enormous problems for the recycling economy, as we talked. So, recycle right. As I mentioned, at ecohv.org, we have a lot of great materials. If you're not right in this area, just check with your local provider, and they'll walk through what is and is not recyclable. So here's my info. As mentioned, I'm excited to stay through the meeting, so if you have any questions after, please let me know. And again, we have our Facebook, Instagram, and website. So thank you very much.
We're going to do our business meeting. We're trying to focus a little bit different in terms of what we're going to present at business meetings. We will have team reports, but we also are going to utilize our wonderful communications team to kind of raise our IT awareness, and each time have something that we can share so that we can access some of those resources that are out there that our kids and grandkids all access immediately. So, it's sort of like the first time somebody said, just take a picture of it while I was looking for a copy of something. Oh, yeah, that makes a huge sense. So Connie has a couple legislative things to share.
Hi, everybody. My name is Connie Lippard. I kind of run the Legislative Action Committee. And Tiffany mentioned our framing workshops. And the main thing I want to say tonight is tomorrow night we have a framing workshop. We're starting to focus on the election. And for those of you who don't know exactly what framing means, it's kind of a way to control the dialogue about issues that we feel strongly about in terms of our values. And so tomorrow night, we're doing our first preparation for the election, and we're going to try to answer things related to what we want to call common good, and when we're attacked by words like when we get a word like socialism, what is that? How do we respond to that? So that'll be the first one, and we have a special guest, who is Brian Watson. And if you've ever had a workshop with Brian Watson, he's going to introduce us and get us going. He's really good. He has a lot of experience in marketing and framing, and he does this for groups. He goes and talks about framing and good ways to keep our messaging positive and stay within our values. So it's tomorrow night. It's at the Livingston Road in Highland at the Huron Valley Council for the Arts, 7 o'clock to 8:30. And then just one other thing, the Legislative Action Committee, we didn't really get to introduce everybody on there, but Jeff Garner is on there, if you want to wave, Jeff. We also have Denise Forrest and Nancy Check and Sarah Moore and Holly, where's Holly? Nickerson and Missy Selfon. So there's 6 of us on this committee, and so we're very excited about our framing workshop, and so we hope you can come. Thanks.
I don't know if anybody, we have family in Kentucky, so I don't know if anybody followed like the governor's race in Kentucky and the governor's race in Virginia and listened to the verbiage that was utilized and words like evil, the evil left. I mean, there is some very damaging language being utilized and very, I don't know, button pushable, for want of a better term. And we have to know how best to respond to that. Not with anger, not with fear, not with division. We need to know how to de-escalate that, define the terms, and control the message. And that's what Brian and the group that he works with have gotten really, really good at. So there are going to be conversations that they will also teach us how to walk away, because sometimes that's the best thing to do. So I encourage anybody, if you can't come tomorrow, there will be more. It is so worthwhile to practice, so that when you're sitting there and somebody says, "Oh, you silly leftist liberals," you hold yourself together, you have a response, you say something like, "Well, that's really a generalization. Can you please tell me what you think that means? To you, what does that mean?" And start a dialogue instead of like, "Rah, well, you darn right, rightist, whatever." So, at any rate, that's my piece to share. So I'm going to pass it on to John, who has been waiting 2 months to do this. This is why the date on your agenda says November, because that's when we were originally going to do this, and I was too lazy to type it all in again. But there is a piece of an app out there that is really helpful in monitoring our representatives and what they're doing out there, and he's going to share how to get to that.
All right, so hi, I'm John.
Hi, John.
I'm addicted to technology. Yeah. If you have your phone and you want to follow along, you can do that. Essentially,
Never say try. Say, "I will do my best."
if you fall behind, it's all right. Yeah. Failing is good. That's how you learn. So on the agenda, there's also the links if you miss them going through this presentation. So there's a lot of different ways that you can talk to your representatives and follow up on things that are going on in politics and really important topics. One of the best things you can do is make a phone call to your representatives, but that takes a lot of time. I'm not saying stop doing that, but this app will let you talk to all your representatives with one click of a button, and it's pretty awesome. So this is for Android because I don't have an iPhone, but it's very similar. So you go to your app store. This is the Google one. And then look for the app Countable. And as you can see, it's called Countable Contact Congress. Click install. I know I'm probably blowing past you. I can wait if you guys want. So then it takes time. And then once it's there, you can open it. Countable, yeah, it's just called Countable. Yeah, like you want to be counted. Yeah. So, yeah, and then you will log in. That part, I think you can skip over that at first. But one of the benefits of putting your personal information in there is it tells you your exact representatives. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be responding to something, clicking a checkbox, and it's going to go, oh, since you clicked that checkbox, I'm going to send that to Gary Peters, Debbie Stabenow, and my House rep. So this is kind of what the app looks like, the home page. There'll be, right now I'm showing you screenshots because I wasn't sure if my data was going to work. It has a list of different news stories, political things, eco stuff, basically just really important things happening. On the side here, so there's a little button up at the left-hand corner that, that slides out the drawer, like right here. This is some different things you can look through. One of these things is my reps, so you can see all the reps, your reps, like the ones I was telling you about. Issues, you can select some issues you think are important. So each different story has a different purpose. So for instance, this particular one was, I did this in November, so this is some older news, but it's talking about the impeachment hearing. And it says, how do you feel about the public impeachment hearing? And it gives you different faces. Like you're really happy about it, you're really mad about it, you're somewhere in between. So you would select one of those options. There's different options for different things. Some of them are about bills. So in that case, it'll say, do you support this bill or do you want to vote against that bill? So there's different options. This particular one was happy, sad, mad. And then once you click your choice, it'll show you the graph of all the other people on the Accountable app. And then you click next, and then it'll take you to your feedback, your personal feedback that you'd like to give. And what's kind of cool about this is it's not like Facebook. It's not a flame war. You're not going to be like attacking people. This particular post will show your point of view and be listed below, but it'll only be your point of view. People can like it or they can ignore it. Nobody can respond to it. So it's not like going to turn into a thread of pain and agony. So that's one of the cool things. And if you see this little checkbox right here, I don't know, yeah, I can zoom in, cool. This little checkbox right here, these are the people it'll send it to if I check that checkbox. So not only will it post below the thread, it'll also send it to those representatives without you having to do anything special. You don't have to find their email addresses, you don't have to find their phone numbers, you just click post my comment. And then if you want to, you can, this is just saying you could recruit others, like send this to your friends and say, hey, check this out. But I probably should have put this part first, but this is underneath that vote. It'll give you examples of who's appearing, like what's important about this, and both sides of the debate. Like one side wants to do it because of this, the other side wants to do it because of this, the general facts are this. So you kind of get an idea of the context of the thing you're looking at. It's not just a news feed. And then lower in the page, it shows you news articles that are related to that particular topic. And then if you see here, you can see like your post and everybody else's post. And then here's what I was saying, there's a like button, but there's no, you can follow that person if you like their particular point of view, so you can see what they say, or you could share it, but you can't like hate it or, do anything crazy with it. Yeah, so here's another example. This is just a vote type. So this is, yes, I support it, or no, I think it's bad. So this one is about whether or not Sandy Hook families can sue for Remington. So you can say you either support that decision or you think it's bad. And then this one said that the Supreme Court announced it won't stop the lawsuit. And then it tells you information about the lawsuit, who's involved, like Scott Kelly, and what do you think, should survivors and families of mass shootings be allowed to sue? So then you would post your comments in that comment, check a box if you want to send it to your representatives, which I think is the most important point of this app, is because you can shout to the internet as hard as you want, but if your representatives don't know how you feel, they're not going to do anything about it. So this is my response to that post. And then this is what it shows you when it sends it to your representative. So it'll say, congratulations, they sent it. In this box here is actually what your representative gets. So it's not just your comment, it's showing you what it's actually sending. It's saying, we sent this message is in response to this headline, and then it gives them the link to see what you're responding to, and then it shows the text that you sent. So it's a very contextual thing, so it's going to give information to the representative so they'll know how to respond to it. And then it shows you who it was sent to. So that was sent to all of my representatives. So that's the basic idea, and let me try and see if I can get the app to work with data. So I can just give you a little bit more of a real time. So these are all the stories that are up there right now. And then you can click on like the react button, and then this is the yes or no, should they limit the Iran thing. And then down here, this is telling you the updates that have happened. Then this tells you what's going on with the story, why it matters, the 1973 War Powers Act. So it gives you context of the whole thing that's going on. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, you get each person's vote. This person voted no, and they explain why. This person voted yes, and they explain why. So you kind of get all of the different opinions without it being angry. And then one last thing, and then I'll ask you if you have any questions. If you go to My Reps, you can actually view each person's voting record on a particular subject, and you can say how you feel about that. So, for instance, this one, should the president create an interagency strategy to secure 5G in the U.S. and its allies? Representative Stevens voted yes. And you could say, I either support that or don't, and you could say, yes, I support it, and then you can put your comment here, and that'll respond directly to her. For these particular ones, it doesn't ask you because you're responding to her actual voting record, so you can say, yes, I want to know. I want her to know. And then one last thing, and you go away. All right, so in the My Reps, you can also do, right here, there's the send message button. So you can send a message directly to the rep if it's not in reference to a particular article, and you just want to send a specific message. And it gives you kind of a template of, hey, this is the person you want to talk to, and sincerely your name. And then you can select a specific topic you want to discuss. So I think it's a really great way to reach out to your representatives, and it's easy. Like, you could do it 1 or 2 times a day without really busting a sweat. And if you explore around in here, there's a lot of things I didn't mention. These are the most important things about contacting people, so I figured it'd be the ones to highlight.
Enough to get you interested enough to download.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have any experience with how the representatives are handling this information? Have you gotten any feedback from people who, are they responding to it, and if so, how?
I've actually gotten quite a few responses from Gary Peters. He sends emails, and I've gotten actual physical letters. Haley Stevens has given me a lot of feedback through email, mainly. But Gary Peters seems to be the one that sends the most physical responses. And I do get emails as well. Yeah, and if anybody has any cool things that they'd like to share, because I think a lot of times you feel like you want to contribute, but you just don't know how. So if somebody has a cool thing that they want to bring to my attention, I can demo it here just like this. Because I really do think it is important to contact people, and the easier the better.
So the other thing that's been on our agenda for the last 3 months, and we've just had these meetings that run over all the time, is, and please help me think of a better name for this, because the morning after discussion just doesn't sound quite right. And that's what keeps popping into my brain. The Christmas party was a great example of this. I mean, our wonderful party planning team had games and all kinds of things planned, and people were so enjoying an opportunity to just sit and talk to some people that they hadn't always talked to, but people who were in their space, mentally and philosophically, and just to have a comfortable discussion and bounce ideas off of one another. So we've toyed with the idea of trying to have a meetup other than our meeting, like where you would have coffee or a drink or whatever. And so Henry's going to sort of throw some ideas out, and he's willing to help coordinate that, but we just want some feedback from you all.
First of all, I want to thank the steering committee now for kind of inviting me on your team. It- well, anyways, we won't go into that. But, I don't know how long I've been coming to these meetings, but, oftentimes we have some great speakers coming and presenting us with information. And my wife will tell you, well, he comes home and he starts talking about these things, and I'm thinking to myself, how do we get to a point where we can come together and reflect on what was said? Because the one on like this one tonight, the new Green Deal that was presented us, holy moly. I mean, it's quite an expansive program that they're trying to push forward. And they're all important topics. And I keep thinking to myself, now, did I hear that right? Is that what they said about the national health insurance? How it would benefit me, or how it would benefit the employer? So I just thought if we could put together maybe, like I said, a follow-up event, say at Starbucks or at Proving Grounds might be a good place. The Proving Ground, or Sweet Treats, Sweetwaters. Is that what it is? Maybe like 9 o'clock. Because, like I said, here it's going on 8, and Andy's going to talk forever. No. Then it'd be 8:30. We could do it. We could at 8:30 or even 9, because I can maybe stay up past 9. Maybe. Things start rolling around 9 o'clock. But even I'd be, if we want to say meet 9 o'clock, say at Baker's or at the brewery up here, and just to kind of jot down notes and then try to put a summary together that we could then put into the newsletter or on the website. Because, you leave here and you're all pumped up and you're thinking, wait a minute, I need to kind of bounce. Did I hear that right? Was it 95% of the people want national health care? Just how did that play out? Because, I process things one way, Rob processes it another way, Larry. What if we... And definitely, women process it differently. So I would just propose to think about how to do that. And Liz kind of suggested we could send out a survey.
If we created a Google survey. I actually learned how to do this.
Oh.
But I've got John. I can do anything. But just to get some feedback from you all, would you want it to be like an alternate week from the meeting, so that you're not as booked up? Do you want, is a morning better, is an afternoon better, and we could move it around. Yeah. So a lot of times people are better if something is sort of a constant in their schedule.
Right.
So just like maybe like a 5-question. I mean, typically if you send out a Google survey, you will get back luckily a third of the responses. So no sense in us sending it out. I mean, we have a great turnout here. We have over 50 people. But if we're only going to get 15 responses, okay, then the steering committee will just decide where we're going to meet. What works for us. But if you all could be committed to responding to that, the Google survey is nice because it puts it in a lovely little spreadsheet immediately, and then you can see, well, more people want mornings than afternoons or whatever. So that was sort of our thought. That we would do that.
But the beauty of this, there's over 300 people on our listserv,
I know,
right?
but even if we got
And-
all 50 of you to respond,
Right.
that would be
I'm just saying,
wonderful.
if you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. That's what I love about this group. Like I said, I don't know when you guys, I think you guys started, 3 years ago or something? I mean, I like you, was floundering to find out a place to get some sanity, to find some calmness, to find whatever. I happened to go to Novi, to a Democratic party or meeting. Someone there, I don't know if it was Karen or someone else, said, hey, we're meeting out here. And I said to myself, because after I left that meeting, I said, same old, same old, same old, because they were kind of going over the election. And I just said, I've got to find something better than this, something that's a little more independent, something that doesn't matter, that draws people from all over. And the thing that I just started, by the way, there's a book out there called Indivisible that you can get on.
Somebody got one at the Christmas party, because I
Oh.
know it's in the door.
It's a good read. gives a good read, good background, and for you to kind of look into. But like I said, when I finally found this pace, the thing that I've taken over these last 2 years, 3 years, I'm not sure what it is, but there's hope here, there's insight, and the most important thing, like it said in the book, this is a community now. We can come before in a community to come and talk and be able to talk about issues. I mean, we had a disastrous gun violence thing that we went to about 2 or 3 months ago, and I left there and saying, how do you get dialogue from this? There was not going to be any dialogue. But at least here, we're of common belief, common values. We can come together and not, well, I don't want to offend her, but we're here where we can share ideas and knowing that people are open to listening to those. So with the survey, like I said, I mean, once a week or once every other week we could meet, but because there's a lot of good stuff, that comes out of here that we'd like to share with each other and then put it out to membership. So anyways, give some thought to the survey. and if you don't respond well, we'll just probably do it anyways and just see who shows up. I mean, I don't know.
That's the other way to do it.
Right.
That's
All right.
the other way to do it.
So thank you.
Nobody showed up. Let's try an afternoon one. All right, I'm really proud of my first meeting. We are now 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Has that ever happened? Never. So as Liz said earlier, we have a committee called Democracy 2020, and I'm going to be chairing that, and it just involves coordinating our Indivisible and how we are going to approach the elections this year, and how we're going to get organized to be boots on the ground for the campaigns that are aligned with our values. And one of the things we are organizing are to make sure that we've got candidates coming in throughout the year to talk to us and let us know how they feel on the issues and get to know them. And we'll talk more about all the things that we have planned at our next meeting. But really, Andy doesn't need an introduction to our group because he's been here before wearing his county treasurer hat, which he still wears. He's still our county treasurer. But tonight he's here with his candidate hat on for Oakland County Executive. So let's welcome him back.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you. And it's nice to see you guys. It's nice to see so many friends. And Julia Pulver is going to do it. Karen Adams is going to do it. And I see, where is Laura Dodd? I know, but I still want to honor what you did. Very nice.
This is Denise Forrest. She's the candidate for the 44th this time.
Denise. We got to sit down, Denise. I want to meet with you and learn about you. But I do want to honor, Laura was a fantastic candidate, and that district's going to flip. But boy, she was one of many that outperformed the base, and that just has, just kicking myself about if we could have attracted more resources, what could have been, but that we don't have that luxury. Right now we have to look ahead. And thank you for the welcome. I was happy to be with you last at the Shack, wearing my treasurer hat, and we did a little bit of a civics program on county government, which really does tend to be a kind of a hidden layer of government, and talked a little bit about some of the fun things that we've done as treasurer. Helping 30,000 people in Oakland County save their property from tax foreclosure. Not because it's in the law and it says that we have to do that, but because it reflects our values of home ownership and keeping people in their home and making sure that if somebody falls on tough financial times, think about that. Maybe that's happened in your life, but you fall on tough financial times. You get a letter from the government saying that you owe taxes and that you have to come in and meet with the person and that you could lose the property. Think about how you would feel. And what we focused on is servicing people in that situation in a way that is respectful, that is in the spirit of partnership, and that is not some government making judgment, that it's just understanding that life happens. When I was a young kid, life happened to our family. My dad had been an attorney and fell ill, suffering from mental illness, had bipolar disorder, something that we got to talk about. It affects a lot of people. We still have too much stigma that stands in the way of getting people treatment. But when my dad got sick and had a couple suicide attempts, we went to a single income household. And my mom, heroic person that she is, she went back to work, and she worked at NBD at 10 Mile and Southfield. Any guesses about how much she made as a teller? 1985? Any guesses? Yeah, I think it was like $9,000. And I like to think about I don't like to think about my mom and us being in that situation, and everybody's pain is, it's all relative and important. But part of the inspiration is that if somebody comes into the treasurer's office, I want them to be treated like I would want my mom to be treated. And I don't know if the delinquent taxes was one of the bills that didn't get paid, back in our childhood or not, but that's important. Tone of government matters a lot. And, what I loved about John's presentation was about how, about accountability, and about how if the government is not following the tone, the policies that we think reflect our American values, and I love that patriotism is a value here, and something that is important to Indivisible, but that's a tool that helps us to maintain the proper tone. And if we see a policy or a statement or a tweet, that violates our values, that we have this tool to speak out about it, which I really want to compliment you on that. And by the way, I also want to really compliment Ms. Stewart for your presentation. I thought that was really meaningful and so practical. There was so many just specific things that we could do to take this vision that we have of a more sustainable community, county, and world, and to take it from this kind of like overwhelming challenge of, oh no, the sky is falling, and converting that into practical things that we can do on a daily basis. I find that very empowering, and I just love it. And Oakland County has got such incredible environment and lakes and rivers and streams and just such natural beauty, that we want to do everything that we can to make sure that we're protecting that and taking our little corner of the world and doing what we can. And and that's one of the things that inspired me to run for Oakland County Executive. I announced my campaign back in March of last year down in Ferndale at a place called the Rust Belt Market. We had some of you folks were there, and and what it was about saying that we are a great county, and we're turning 200 years old this year. And what better time for us to reflect and to really build out a common vision for the future of Oakland County that is the future that we want it to be. And in the area of sustainability, that is not a place that Oakland County government can claim as a bragging point. The county has been, unfortunately, very slow to adopt a sustainability plan. The county has not done anything, and this is, of course, largely under, Patterson, but nothing to track our carbon footprint. So not only are we not being responsible about it, we don't know the degree of our irresponsibility, if you will. And it is willful. And so that's why if you go to voteandymeisner.com and you go to, my sustainability platform, that you'll see a call for Oakland County to adopt a sustainability plan and to get a benchmark on our carbon footprint and to work towards an aggressive but a sustainable goal for us to be leaders in this space. When I think about the Oakland County that I want for the future, and that's what really this election is about. It's about our future. It's about the next 200 years of Oakland County. When my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old boy, I've got Asher and Levi. We're blessed with 2 boys. They're young, but thinking about them growing up in this world. And it's not so crazy to think about them having kids and their kids growing up. And that's ultimately what we are as a community, is we are generations. And we need to have policies in place in Oakland County that speak to the needs of our generations of folks. And the sustainability piece is a key one. It was the darndest thing, but Brooks Patterson was very stubborn about adopting sustainable energy on the county campus. I mean, we got a ton of land. Solar makes a ton of sense because we've got all these fields and these flat buildings. And, we could have these buildings operating, on their own and could be selling back maybe even to the grid. But, we're not doing that. We need to do that. And that's a critical area. I want to talk a little bit about another area where I'm very focused on our needs and the needs of our future residents as well. And that's the area of health and wellness. And I really want to thank Julia Pulver, who participated in a town hall meeting that we did a few weeks back about healthcare and a healthcare proposal that I've made called the Meisner Plan for Oakland County's Health, Wellness, and Happiness. And you know that not only do you have a genius here, but you got a policy guru who really talked about the negative effects of this so-called work requirement on Medicaid. And Julia really educated us about that and about how that's not what that is at all. That's really kind of a tool to ensnare people, and it's not about helping people. But, healthcare, though, is one of these areas where whether you're rich or poor or somewhere in between, all of us are thinking about our health. And then I talked about our wellness. This lesson that I learned from my dad, that our mental health is just as important as our physical health. And even more than that, what we would notice with my dad is that if he was having an episode where he was not doing well emotionally, I want you to know that physical ailment came with that. Whether, with him, it would be obesity. That you could tell if he was not doing well by his weight. And then that brought on type 2 diabetes, a physical ailment that was related to that. And here you have this interconnection. But in our splintered healthcare system, right here in Oakland County, there's no place that is looking at us holistically. Not looking at us as a physical body and as a emotional being. And we have an opportunity to fix that. And what the Meisner Plan for Oakland County's Health, Wellness, and Happiness is about taking the Oakland County Health Department, which right now does very important work. We had like a measles outbreak some time ago, and they, dealt with that. They keep the restaurant kitchens nice and clean. And they have a very important mission. And I think that they're very well regarded as a health department. But as I look at Oakland County and see that not only are there 71,000 uninsured people in Oakland County, according to the League for Public Policy, think about how many people there are in our county who are underinsured. And what do I mean by that? If you got a $5,000 deductible, you're underinsured because you ain't going to use your insurance because you ain't got the $5,000. Now, there's a lot of examples of that. And so what do you do if you're in that circumstance? I'm sick. I'm not going to go to the doctor because I'm not going to be able to pay the deductible. Is that health need any less meaningful? You know, if that's a mother, the kid's counting on that kid, that's just as important. And so the concept that I'm proposing is to build 6 regional Oakland County health and wellness centers around Oakland County. We would do one out west, do one in the 1 or 2 in the north, one probably in the center of the county, and then maybe 2 or 3 on the south and southeast. And these health and wellness centers are places where not only can people who are uninsured go to receive direct primary care. So instead of going to like an urgent care center, or where's the place that a lot of those folks end up going? Yeah. Beaumont will tell you that an average, average care costs in the emergency room at Beaumont about $1,200, whereas if the same care was provided in a more appropriate treatment environment, like an urgent care center, that same care could go for $125 or $150. So there's major cost savings associated with getting people out of the emergency room and into an environment where they can be looked at not only for their physical health, but you can have, and the term that they use is integration, bringing together the physical and behavioral health so that you can treat the whole person. Now, the wellness centers would also have services available to people that have insurance, but just care about their wellness and good health. You could have yoga classes. You could have a farmer's market. You could have, just like Tiffany Stewart laid out so many kind of practical ways that in our day-to-day life we can improve our sustainability and reduce and reuse and recycle. The same thing is true of our physical and emotional health. Like, do this for me. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take 3 breaths with me. Bear with me, but I really want you to do this. And what I'd like to do is have us take 3 breaths. I want you to think about your mindset right now, and then let's do 3 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Take your time with it, and join me if you would in just doing 3 deep breaths. All right, we're going to start with the first one. So in, 2, takes a little discipline to really do that. But if you did it, you feel better. Your blood pressure went down a little bit. Your sense of anxiety was reduced a bit by that exercise. We just grabbed you and took you for a second and say, hey, we're going to do a wellness exercise right now. As I think about policies that can make transformational change for Oakland County, which is what we need and what we deserve, there's no reason not to have these policies that can address our needs and that can improve the health, wellness, and happiness of every person in Oakland County, no matter their background. And, as I think about ways that I would want county government to move the needle in the next generation, over these next 200 years, it just strikes me that health and healthcare is the most important. Now, the final piece of it is, without divulging too much personal information, I'm an asthmatic. I've been an asthmatic since I was young, and so I take prescription drugs. I take Advair and Singulair, and then I have like a rescue inhaler if I'm having like wheezing. And, my 3-year-old unfortunately got it. And so it's just something I've always dealt with. And I'm blessed that I have pretty good insurance through Oakland County. It's a reasonable copay. But not everybody is in that boat. There's a lot of people that are paying out of pocket. As I understand that, I've heard from folks that are on Medicare where they could come across something that's not necessarily covered. And so even if you're insured or under one of the programs, you might still benefit from getting cheaper prescription drugs. And the element of my healthcare plan that is, I think, also pretty exciting is looking at a bulk purchasing strategy for Oakland County. If we just took a survey, if we set aside like the HIPAA laws and everything, and we just all put our prescription drugs on the table tonight, I'm not asking you to do that. But what we'd probably find is that there's 5 or 10 drugs that we all take, and that, if we're really being aggressive and proactive, that what's to stop us from going, we're 1.2 million people in Oakland County. To use that collective purchasing power to get a bulk purchasing deal with the prescription drugs companies directly. That's a way that we could generate savings. And so that's just one of the examples that I wanted to share. I've been blessed in that I've had some great exposure to public policy and great policy makers. I started my career working in Washington, D.C. as a legislative aide, and I was a state representative for 6 years as well, and helped write the state's smoke-free workplace ban. It took a little time, but people warmed up to it. I held the first hearings ever on it, and Frank, I'm checking my time here. And I had the pleasure as the chairman of the Commerce Committee to convene the first ever hearing on the smoke-free workplace bill. It had been bottled up in committee. In talking about your great legislative committee, and I was really vibing about that, and I love the framing and the fact you're coming at us like that is great. But so I convened this first hearing, and then I think the example that I gave was, imagine that it's April 19th, 1983, and you just, you came into the airport, you got on the airplane, and you lit up a cigarette, and you enjoyed, a nice smoke. And then the day after, when that was banned by the FAA or whoever, would do that, and the thought of smoking on an airplane now is so ridiculous. I mean, if somebody did that, you'd be like, what is this like, dream world or something? And so it was a part of the way that we tried to address the culture change that's required, to make smoke-free workplace, and that somebody drinking a brew at the bar can go outside and have a cigarette without the world ending. But it's culture change. And it's something that we can do and take the elements of our culture as a county that we love and really elevate those, and take some of the areas where we're not quite as current and where our policy climate has become a little stale, and make the updates that we need. And so the website, voteandymeisner.com, has specific, detailed plans across the public policy spectrum. And so I started in March. I put all my ideas right on the table, made them public, and have been engaging in a dialogue about them. I welcome your input about ways that you think we can make Oakland County a better place. And I'm confident that by working together, we can build this common vision and make Oakland County truly a place that deserves all the accolades, and that keeps our financial house in order in a way that is really a part of our DNA as a county, and keeps the AAA bond rating, which I've been working to protect over these last 10 years, but also allows us to say, we don't have 2,200 homeless children, which is the case right now. Right now, how good can we feel about ourselves when there's 2,200 kids in our county, one of the wealthiest counties in the country, who are going to be homeless tonight? So I brought some materials. I also have a sign-in. We have a very cool office in an old farmhouse in Pontiac on Huron, right on M59. It's the second oldest house in Pontiac, and we have all sorts of volunteer opportunities. It sits on about 5 acres, and there is a croquet observation tower in the back. So if you're a history buff, you'll be very impressed by that. But this is something that we got to do together. I welcome your input. I welcome your partnership. I appreciate you as an organization taking our community and putting it on your shoulders. And when we do that across the board, there's no change that we can't realize. And so I'm excited to do that. And I don't know if you want me to take any questions or if you want me to move on.
You segued into this beautifully, Andy.
Okay.
As somebody who worked in human services for 40 years and worked really closely with families and children in need, I think it's so important for caregivers and therefore, as an extension of that, activists to take care of themselves. And I want anybody to raise their hand who did not feel fried at the end of 2018, who did not go to bed after that election and say, I'm not getting up tomorrow. I am sleeping as long as I need to. And I think that I felt really strongly that we needed to add a piece that was the activists taking care of themselves. And we will hopefully have a whole meeting around that. But Pat has a wonderful background. She's fabulous, isn't she? Yeah. And so we're going to try to close each meeting with some thoughts. Andy's breathing thing, perfect. I will tell you, I can bring my blood pressure down 10 points by breathing deep for 15 seconds. Try it sometime. My husband has a blood pressure machine, so I play with it. So I'm going to let Pat go, and then if you all want to stay and ask questions, they don't really rush us out of here. They don't close the police station, and that's where we have to take the key. So.
I'd rather hear more from Andy than me, but it's interesting because I worked for the county probably before you were born, but I found this because I don't throw anything away, and it was, you laugh, those who know me, but I got this at a workshop at the county, so it fits right in with wellness. So, and I found this today, and I thought, I have to bring it to the meeting tonight. So that's why I'm doing this on stress management, because we have been worried about how we all can take care of ourselves in 2020, and 2020 is already proven to be, yes, I'll say no one. And this is just a little something to think about, and we're hoping, like Liz said, to do this more often to take care of ourselves. So a speaker, when explaining stress management to an audience, raised a glass of water and asked, "How heavy do you think this glass of water is?" Answers were called out like 8 ounces or 20 ounces. And the speaker said, the absolute weight does not matter. It depends on how long you try to hold it. If I hold it for a minute, it's not a problem. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will ache. If I hold it for a day, you may have to call an ambulance. But the longer I hold it, the heavier it becomes. And that's the way it is with stress management. If we carry our burdens all the time, sooner or later, the burdens become increasingly heavy, and we won't be able to carry on. As with the glass of water, you have to put it down for a while and rest before holding it any longer. When we're refreshed, we can carry the burden again. So we need to learn how to sometimes put the burden down. We can pick it up again later, perhaps another day. Whatever burdens you are carrying now, let them down for a moment when you can. Relax. Schedule some fun. Rest. You know, life is short. We have a great deal of work to do in 2020, as you know, and that can become very depressing and very stressful. Remember to take some time to find some joy each day, recharging, and begin again. Thank you.
And to update it to John's generation, close your browser tabs. Before you go to bed, just close all your browser tabs. You can open them back up in the morning. He mentioned that the other night. And I thought that was the new age version of that. So I know Andy will take questions. I know Tiffany will take questions. I'm sure you have a lot. We can do it as a group, or you can just sort of come and, mingle. We do like to mingle. And put your petitions up here and hopefully get some signatures.